I remember the exact moment I realized I wasn't just a victim, but rather the engineer of my own twisted little plan. It was about 2 months ago, right after that scheduled power outage in our neighborhood, the one that changed everything. At first, you'd think my wife, Ellie, was the sole villain, because I stumbled across her sneaking around with our neighbor, Eduardo. They were planning to collect on my life insurance by making my death look like a perfect accident. But here's the truth. A lot of people don't realize how manipulation can run in layers, how sometimes the person you think is getting played is actually pushing the pieces around the board. So, let me take you back. I came home early one evening because my buddy canceled our plans. I'd had a bad day. My job was driving me up the wall, finances were tight, and the spark in my marriage was basically on life support. Honestly, I was in a foul mood, but I still remember rolling my eyes at the broken garage door opener, cussing under my breath, and sneaking in through the side door of the house. The power was out. That blackout had been announced for days, courtesy of some grid maintenance in our area. I didn't text Ellie to say I was coming home early. My phone battery was in the single digits, basically dead. Perfect timing, right? And in the darkness, I heard my wife's voice. She wasn't alone. I heard someone else's low tones, recognized it as Eduardo's. He had moved in next door about a year back, recently divorced, seemed the friendly type. We'd lent him tools, invited him over for casual beers. Ellie always acted extra sweet when he was around, which bugged me, but I never made a big deal out of it. That night, standing in the hallway, I could just barely make out their words. My heart pounded so loud it nearly drowned them out, but I still caught the key part. "Once the insurance pays out for his accident next month," Ellie said in that high-pitched whisper she uses when she's trying too hard to be charming, "you and I can finally be together." Then a clinking of wine glasses, like they were toasting my demise. I felt my head go hot, then cold, then strangely calm. You'd think I'd barge in, flipping tables, but something in me clicked differently. You could say I froze, but that's not quite right. It was more like I shifted into a slow, silent calculation mode. I didn't see red. I didn't want to lash out immediately. Instead, I walked outside, sat in my car for a good 20 minutes, and thought about what I'd just heard. Because I wasn't just overhearing a random fling. My wife was explicitly planning to kill me for insurance money. Except here's the kicker. That insurance policy wasn't just some random new plan Ellie had convinced me to get. I'd intentionally boosted it to 500,000 months ago because I wanted to test something. All right, let me not get ahead of myself. Let me lay it out in order. Ellie and I had been married for 6 years, together for 8. We met at a friend's New Year's Eve party, one of those classic boy meets girl stories. She was vivacious, had that confident grin, the kind of woman who could talk her way out of a speeding ticket or persuade the bartenders to give her free drinks. But as the years went on, I started noticing little cracks. Our arguments got nastier, our finances were always tight. She pushed me to improve our home, fix the roof, maintain the yard, all that domestic hustle, but she never lifted a finger herself. And even though I was bringing in most of the money, she guilted me about not doing enough around the house. One day, she brought up the idea of life insurance, said that with our mortgage and the leaky roof, we needed a bigger policy in case something happened to me. I could see the superficial logic in it. But the more she pressed, the more suspicious I became. I didn't say anything right away. I'm not an idiot, though. I started analyzing all the times she'd casually mention, "Oh, if something happened to you," or "We need a backup plan in case you got hurt on the job." It gave me a weird vibe. That's when I got the policy. Big one. I acted like I was clueless about what her real intentions might be. Meanwhile, I started stashing money in a separate account, building what I called my get-out fund. Then Eduardo moved in next door, about a year ago. Funny how that was just around the time Ellie started hinting about me not working out enough, telling me maybe I should exercise so I don't drop dead early. I realized later she'd probably been setting the stage for me to have some kind of accident. But I like to watch from the sidelines, gathering intel. Thing is, I also had a serious mean streak that Ellie never fully understood. My coworkers always said I had an eerie calm to me. Even as a teenager, if someone messed with me, I'd plan out my response for days or weeks, waiting for that perfect moment to strike. I guess Ellie thought she was being cunning, but she had no idea who she was dealing with, so back to that night. I come home, overhear her little scheme, realize she's fully set on killing me for the insurance, and I was not even that shocked. Part of me expected it eventually. I left quietly, circled the block, waiting for darkness to really settle. Then I showed up again, this time banging on the door, calling out, "Ellie, you there?" with my phone flashlight in hand. Sure enough, she answers, real flustered. Eduardo's standing in the kitchen, looking like a deer in headlights. She's got two wine glasses out, that sweet perfume I recognize from special occasions. "Oh, hey!" I said, forcing a laugh. "Didn't expect company, but man, the power's out, so I figured I'd grab some flashlights for us." Eduardo coughs, stumbles over his words. Yeah, I just came over to, see if you guys had power. Ours went out too." "Man, this sucks, right?" I said, handing him a flashlight. "Anyway, you want a beer?" He looked at Ellie, who gave him this quick, wide-eyed glare. "Nah, I gotta go," he mumbled. "Rain check, though." I let him walk out, then turned to Ellie with a half smile, thinking, "You have no idea that I heard everything." We spent the next 2 hours sitting at the kitchen table by candlelight, just me fiddling with my phone, Ellie texting someone on hers every few minutes, probably checking if I was on to them. She looked downright uncomfortable. I had to fight the urge to smirk, because I found it kind of hilarious. The days that followed were a masterclass in quiet observation. I watched every move she made. She started setting passcodes on her phone. She'd go into the bathroom to take calls. She'd slip out for work dinners. I found that unmarked bottle in her purse. She claimed it was vitamins. I recognized the smell, like some potent form of sleeping medication or sedative. If I had to guess, they planned to knock me out and stage some accident. Maybe during that fishing trip I had coming up with my brothers. But ironically, that fishing trip was my own invention in the first place. I'd asked my brothers months earlier if they'd cover for me if I needed an excuse to be out of town. They agreed. They didn't know the details, but they trusted me. One afternoon, I was rummaging through Ellie's laptop while she was at work, and I found search history with phrases like most lethal undetectable poison, how to fake natural death, life insurance payout timeline. Her stupidity almost made me laugh. She was so cocky she didn't even bother clearing her search history. It's like she thought I was too stupid or distracted to notice. But I started screenshotting everything. I bought hidden cameras off Amazon, tiny little gadgets you can slip into corners or on bookshelves. I recorded her phone conversations, her suspicious messages to Eduardo. Now you might think I'd go straight to the police, but that's not how my brain works. I wanted to ruin her on my own terms. I wanted to show her you can't just decide to off your husband and walk away with $500,000. But I didn't want to just ruin her. I wanted to break Eduardo in the process. I hated that smug grin of his, the way he'd pretend to be my buddy, even borrowing my lawnmower last summer while apparently planning to take my place in bed. So I played along. I let Ellie think she was winning. Meanwhile, I started planting seeds of doubt between them. One day at a neighborhood cookout, I made sure to compliment Ellie in front of Eduardo, saying something like, "God, babe, that top you wore last night looks so hot." Then I winked at her and walked away. She looked uncomfortable. Eduardo glared like I just called her a stripper. It was petty, but I enjoyed twisting the knife. And I began messing with our finances in subtle ways. We had about 16 grand in our joint account, the last vestige of our meager savings. I told Ellie I had a secret gambling problem, like I was racking up online bets. She believed me, or pretended to, because that would make me an even easier target. She thought it explained why money was missing. Actually, I was funneling most of it to a hidden account in my name only. "Are you sure you don't need help?" she asked me one night, rubbing my shoulders like she actually cared. "Yeah," I said softly. "I'm joining a support group." She looked at me with feigned concern. "I just want you to be healthy and stable, you know? We've got a lot riding on the future." I almost snorted. I knew exactly what she was referring to. I made sure Ellie and Eduardo believed they were on a ticking clock to kill me. Every couple of days, I staged an accident. I'd come home with a bruise on my arm, claiming I slipped at work. Or I'd pretend I nearly crashed the car, telling her, "Damn cat ran across the street, almost ended up in the ditch." Every time she'd give me this worried expression that didn't quite reach her eyes. I could see she was thinking, "Don't die now, not before we finalize our plan." I overheard a phone conversation between Ellie and Eduardo. "Look," she whispered, "we need to stick to the schedule. I don't care if he's being clumsy. I want it done right. If he dies before the official date, we might not get the full payout. The insurance might investigate." Eduardo responded with something about doubling the dose when the time came. I had the entire conversation recorded. About a week later, I decided to vanish for 2 days. I didn't tell Ellie. I turned my phone off, parked my car at a motel in a town about an hour away, and relaxed while eating fast food, scrolling social media, just waiting to see how they'd respond. On my hidden cameras, I caught Ellie flipping out. She called Eduardo at least 5 times in the same day, nearly hyperventilating. "What if he's dead somewhere?" she hissed. "What if some random accident got him before we could do it our way?" Eduardo sounded nervous. "That means no body, no payout, or at least the insurance is going to want an investigation. We're screwed. We can't claim money on a missing person." I almost choked laughing when I heard that. These 2 idiots. They wanted me to stay alive just long enough to kill me on their own terms. I showed up 2 days later, breezing through the door with a fake sheepish grin. "I went camping," I said. "Needed time to clear my head. Sorry if I worried you." Ellie's eyes flicked up and down my body like she was checking for bullet holes. "You could have told me," she said, voice trembling slightly. "Phone died," I shrugged. "No biggie, right?" No, it's fine," she stammered. "I was just worried." Lies stacked on lies. She texted Eduardo while I took a shower, and from the cameras, I saw her type out, "He's back, but something's off." Yeah, something was definitely off. Because I wasn't just going to survive, I was going to crush them. Phase 2, I canceled the life insurance policy. That was the gem they were salivating over. I filed the paperwork quietly, ensuring all the confirmations were sent to my private email. I wanted that nuke to be ready and waiting. I also planted some documents on my laptop, fake ones referencing a divorce lawyer, referencing a suspicion of infidelity, referencing the possible murder plot. I left them open accidentally a few times. Let Ellie catch a glimpse of an email subject line, something like, "Draft, outline for legal investigation Ellie's affair." One morning, I purposely left my laptop open on the kitchen table with an email about the canceled insurance. I slipped off to the shower, letting her poke around. When I came back, she was in the kitchen making pancakes, her hands shaking so badly that half the batter was on the counter. "You good, babe?" I asked, stifling a grin. "Yeah," she murmured. Just a headache." "Take something for it," I said nonchalantly. "No reason to suffer." She glared at me like she was trying to read my face. She must have been wondering if I had discovered her scheme. Later that night, I discovered fraudulent charges on our joint account, charges I'd actually made to a second credit card, then quickly refunded. I called the bank while Ellie was right there, making a big show of it. "Yeah, I don't recognize these transactions," I said loudly into the phone. "We need to freeze the account immediately." Ellie paled. She pulled me aside the minute I was off the call. "Does that mean we can't touch the money?" I shrugged. "That's what they told me. Could be a couple days, could be weeks. They need to verify everything. Sorry, babe." She blinked fast, clearly panicking. Shit. I tried not to smile too wide. To push them further, I texted Eduardo. "Hey man, let's grab a beer sometime. We never really hang out, just you and me." He couldn't say no without looking suspicious, so he agreed. We met at this dingy dive bar downtown that smelled like old cigarettes and regret. I ordered a pitcher, played the part of the confused husband who needed a friend to vent to about my failing marriage and gambling issues. He downed 3 beers in rapid succession, which loosened his tongue. I asked, "So, you seeing anyone these days?" He looked around nervously. Not exactly. There's, someone." I pretended to not get it. "Oh, a secret crush, huh?" He chuckled, then sighed. "Women can be complicated, you know? You think they want one thing, then they turn around and..." "Well," I raised my eyebrows. "That's so." He rubbed his face. "Never mind. Let's change the subject." I topped off his glass, then casually mentioned, "Man, I'm thinking about canceling my life insurance. The premiums are insane, especially with my gambling problem." Watching the color drain from his cheeks was priceless. "You canceled it? Are you sure that's a good idea?" I shrugged. "Yeah, I might. Maybe I already did. I'll figure it out." He started babbling about how important insurance is. "You never know what could happen, you know. Life's unpredictable." I pretended to zone out, nodding. Meanwhile, my phone, hidden in my jacket pocket, was recording every word. When I got home, Ellie was waiting up. "How was your night?" she asked, voice tight. "Pretty good," I said. "Ran into Eduardo, actually. He seems upset about some girl who's messing with his head. You know anything about that?" The look on her face was gold, like she knew exactly who he was talking about, but tried to hide it. "No idea," she said, forcing a laugh. I murmured, heading to the bedroom. "Night, babe." The next morning, I accidentally left another open document on my laptop, referencing the final life insurance cancellation. This time, I walked out of the room, but stood behind the cracked door just to watch her reaction. She came in, started browsing, saw the email. Her jaw dropped. She whispered, "Shit, shit, shit, shit." Then she took her phone and called Eduardo. I recorded that too from the hidden camera in the living room. "He canceled the policy," she hissed. "We have no payout now. We need a new plan. Maybe we wait until he reinstates it, or I don't know. We can't just give up." That's when I realized if they killed me now, they'd get nothing. They were stuck. I decided it was time to blow up the entire arrangement. One afternoon, I sat Ellie down in the living room. She perched on the edge of the couch, hands clasped, eyes darting around like a cornered animal. I said, "Ellie, I know." She swallowed. "Know what?" "Everything." She blinked rapidly, tears welling up in her eyes. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she began. I didn't mean to. He seduced me, and I was lonely." I cut her off. "Cut the crap. I know about the affair, and I'm filing for divorce." Her mouth hung open. "Wait, what do you mean That's so sudden. I can explain." "I don't need an explanation," I said calmly. "You're leaving today. I already spoke to a lawyer." She started sobbing. "I know I messed up, okay? I got in too deep. Eduardo was blackmailing me. He threatened to tell you everything if I didn't keep paying him. I swear, I didn't want it to get this out of hand." I almost laughed out loud. She was painting him as the villain, claiming she was the victim. She never once admitted the murder plan, but I nodded, pretended to be convinced. "Grab your stuff," I said coldly. "Go stay with your sister or something. We'll talk later about the details. I'm done." Once she was out of the house, I found her little notebook, tucked behind our dresser, no less. Inside were pages of meticulous notes about how to stage my accident, references to hidden poisons, potential dates, and times. She'd written bullet points like disable brake lines, use sedation, fishing trip, =perfect scenario. I took pictures of every page. Then I texted Ellie. "Meet me tomorrow at the coffee shop on 6th Street, noon, non-negotiable." We met up in that coffee place. Bright lights, plenty of people around. She looked like a wreck, dark circles under her eyes, hair a mess. The minute she sat, she started in with the tears. "I swear, I never wanted to hurt you. I just got caught up in something bigger." I interrupted by sliding the notebook across the table. She froze, flipping it open, seeing her own handwriting. "Care to explain?" I said. She let out this eerie little laugh, the kind you hear from someone who's on the verge of a breakdown. "It was just a stupid idea. I was brainstorming a novel. Oh, God. You wouldn't understand." I stared at her. "Ellie, I heard you with Eduardo. I saw your search history, found your bottle of sedatives, recorded your phone calls. Don't play me." She exhaled shakily. "How long have you known?" "Since the blackout," I replied, leaning back in my chair. She pressed her fingers to her temple, eyes brimming with tears. "I thought you were too stupid to catch on. You always seemed so distant, so clueless, burying yourself in your job. That's why we picked you." "We?" I prompted, raising an eyebrow. She swallowed. "Me and him. We thought you wouldn't fight back or you wouldn't notice. God, we were so wrong." I nodded. Then I pulled out 2 sets of documents. One was a thick folder with all my compiled evidence, screenshots, audio transcripts, the works. The other was a straightforward set of divorce papers giving me everything. I slid the divorce papers toward her. "Option 1. You sign these. You walk away with just your clothes, your car, and maybe a small chunk for a motel. Option 2. I take this folder to the police, and you and Eduardo can talk about your grand plan in a courtroom." She stared at me, tears rolling down her cheeks. "You can't. You're not serious." I said nothing, just stared back. After a long moment, she let out a shaky sigh, took the pen, and signed. When she was done, she whispered, "You realize this means I have nothing, right?" "That's correct," I said. "Now get out of my sight." I wasn't done. I sent Eduardo an edited recording, some bits of Ellie talking about him, throwing him under the bus, making him look like the aggressor. I added a message. "Thought you might want to hear this. P.S. If you don't leave town, I'll show the rest to the police." Within 24 hours, he listed his house for sale. He texted Ellie a string of insults. I saw them on the phone logs. He called her a manipulative snake, said she was the one who orchestrated everything, that he never wanted it to go that far. I guess 2 narcissists in a conspiracy always turn on each other eventually. Now see, up until then, you might think I was just a wrong spouse, cleverly seeking justice, but here's where it gets darker. Because yes, she was planning to kill me. But I also set them both up from the start. The bigger the insurance policy, the bigger the trap. Ellie was always cunning, but I recognized her potential for betrayal from day one. The moment she suggested we up that policy, I started orchestrating this elaborate plan to expose her. I stoked the flames, introduced subtle friction into our marriage, so she'd have an excuse to look elsewhere, namely Eduardo. When he moved next door, I made sure to be extra friendly, lent him tools, joked around about life, made him feel comfortable. I practically laid out a welcome mat for him to walk into my marriage. Then I quietly documented every text, every dinner invite, every clandestine meeting. So, yeah, I was the real puppet master here. The fact that they wanted to murder me only proved me right. I was satisfied in a twisted way because they walked right into the trap I'd set. About a week after the divorce papers were signed, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I was at home, nursing a beer, feeling that mix of triumph and emptiness. "Hello," I answered. "It's me." Ellie's voice, ragged and frantic. I let out a breath. "What do you want?" Her words tumbled out in a panic. "We were driving, Eduardo and I. We were heading out of town. We got in a wreck. It's bad. Oh God, I think he's dying and I'm stuck in the passenger seat. My legs are pinned." I said nothing, just listened to the sound of her heavy breathing. She kept going. "We hydroplaned or something? He lost control. We spun, hit the guardrail. He was screaming, then he's unconscious." I pictured it. The night sky, the twisted metal, the smell of leaking gasoline. Eduardo's face smashed against the steering wheel, and I felt nothing. "Where are you?" I asked. "Some highway," she said, voice quivering. "I can't even see a sign. My phone's at 10%. You gotta call an ambulance. Please, you gotta help me." I took a slow sip of my beer. "You seriously want my help now after everything?" She choked on a sob. "I'm sorry, okay? But I'm stuck here and he's not moving." I pressed my lips together. A bizarre calm washed over me. "You two tried to kill me, Ellie. It wasn't supposed to be like that," she whimpered. "I was desperate. I swear, he pushed me, he threatened me." I cut her off. "I already told you, cut the crap, and you know what? Maybe it's just karma. You're pinned in the seat and your new boyfriend's bleeding out. Sounds like a cosmic punchline to me." She let out a shaky breath, half sob, half gasp. You can't be serious. You're just gonna leave me here to die?" "Don't be dramatic," I said. "Dial emergency yourself. My guess is someone else will pass by soon enough." Her voice cracked. "Please, I'm so scared." I paused, letting the silence stretch. "Maybe you should be." And then I ended the call. I stood there for a moment, phone in hand, feeling no guilt at all. I wasn't the hero. I never was. Ellie might have orchestrated my demise with Eduardo, but I'd been the one orchestrating theirs from the start. After that phone call, I took another swig of my beer, stared out the living room window. The street was dark and quiet. If they survived that crash, it would be a miracle. I wasn't going to be the one that saved them. Not after all they'd done or tried to do. I did call emergency eventually, after about 10 minutes of standing there, considering. I told the dispatcher I'd gotten a random call from a hysterical woman claiming she was in an accident on some highway near the city limits. I didn't know exactly where, but gave them a guess. I never mentioned she was my wife. Then I showered, shaved, and went to bed. Slept like a log. When I woke up, I had no missed calls. My phone was quiet. For a moment, I was curious if Ellie had made it or if she was lying in a hospital bed somewhere. But mostly, I felt relieved. I'd already set the divorce in motion, seized the house, locked down the finances. I was free. I found out the details later when a mutual acquaintance texted me. "Holy shit, did you hear about Eduardo's accident? People said Ellie was with him." I typed back, "No clue, man. Haven't heard from her in days." By noon, social media was buzzing about it. Some serious crash off the highway, the driver died at the scene, the passenger was in critical condition. I didn't need anyone to confirm it was Eduardo in the morgue. That afternoon, as I sipped coffee in my silent kitchen, I let out a slow breath. I wasn't proud of the fact that I'd more or less set them up to fail. But I also didn't regret it. Ellie might never know just how deeply I'd orchestrated everything. The inflated insurance policy was partially my idea, but she took the bait and planned to kill me for it. Eduardo got played from both sides. Now he was gone. When my phone finally rang and I saw Ellie's name pop up, I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the best of me. I pressed accept. "Yeah?" "You asshole." she rasped. Her voice was weak, like she'd swallowed shards of glass. He's dead. Eduardo's dead. And you're alive? I asked, unfazed. She let out a wheezing laugh. Barely. My ribs are broken. My legs shattered. The doctors say I'm lucky, but I don't feel lucky. Why'd you call? Silence crackled across the line. Then she said, we could have worked this out if you just not canceled the policy, not turned everything upside down. None of this would have happened. I gave a short bark of laughter. You really think I'm the reason your plan to kill me went sideways? She sucked in a breath. We wouldn't have had to resort to this if you had just... I interjected, my voice calm. Look, you're the one who raised the stakes. You tried to murder me for money. Let's not rewrite history. Another strained silence. You knew all along, she whispered. All that sweet, supportive act, while you were screwing me over. I shrugged, even though she couldn't see me. You do what you gotta do, right? By the way, next time you want to plan a murder, pick someone who isn't 10 steps ahead. That's free advice. She exhaled a shaky breath, like she was about to break down again. I hope you're satisfied, you bastard. You got everything. I'm lying here in a hospital bed with a dead boyfriend and no money. How does it feel? I paused, letting the words sink in. Then I said, feels like karma, Ellie. Then I hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time, reflecting on the warped path that led us here. I remembered the day we got married, how she smiled at me in her white dress, swore we'd be together forever. I remembered thinking that day that I'd do anything to protect myself from heartbreak. And apparently anything turned out to be an elaborate mind game culminating in the ruin of us both. Yes, she had planned to kill me, but I was the one who orchestrated her downfall. If that made me a villain, so be it. This wasn't a story about a poor husband escaping his murderous wife. It was the story of two ruthless people stepping on each other's necks, with one emerging on top, me. The next few days, the official word came in. Eduardo's cause of death was massive blunt force trauma from the crash. The cops didn't suspect foul play. The road was slick from rain, and he'd been speeding. As for Ellie, she was laid up in the hospital, pinned for a good while with her injuries. Our divorce was already in progress. My lawyer texted to say everything was going smoothly. She couldn't contest the terms because we had a signed agreement, and with Eduardo gone, she had no leg to stand on. The chatter in the neighborhood was that poor Eduardo met with tragedy, and Ellie was some unlucky passenger. Nobody asked me for details because we were all living in the shadow of that fiasco. I didn't volunteer any secrets, let them speculate. I sold the house a month later. It was a place riddled with memories I didn't want. People might raise eyebrows at me leaving so soon, but I didn't care. With the money from the sale, plus the funds I'd been squirreling away, I bought a smaller condo in a nicer part of town. Ellie tried contacting me once more from the hospital, some sob story about needing rehab costs. I blocked her number. She tried emailing, so I filtered her straight to spam. As far as I was concerned, she ceased to exist. If you're wondering whether I feel remorse, the answer is complicated. I don't lie awake at night grieving. I suppose there's some emptiness, but not for her. It's more that strange vacuum you feel when the final puzzle piece clicks and you have no more reason to keep playing the game. I've considered therapy. Maybe I'll go someday, talk to a professional about how I calmly orchestrated the downfall of my own wife and her secret lover. But for now, I'm content in my quiet condo, occasionally remembering the look on Ellie's face that night of the blackout, or hearing the stutter in Eduardo's voice when we had that last beer. A part of me wonders if it could have ended differently if Ellie hadn't latched onto the idea of murdering me for $500,000. But I suspect it would have ended badly no matter what. We were both twisted in our own ways. She just didn't see how twisted I was until it was too late.